Hi, welcome to Total Travel Talk Thursday Live. And you might notice there are only two of us today, but that's okay because we have a lot of great stuff that we need to talk to you about. But before we get started, I'm Janine Queenin, and I am the Chief Travel Wizard here at Storied Travel. And I'm here with Krystal EIcher from Serendipitous. I don't know why I always have trouble with that.
Serendipitous tongue tie of a name.
Traveler. And we want to say hello and thanks for coming. So, hey, Krystal, how are things in Texas?
Hey, things in Texas are hot. Hot. It's officially like the hot season, and it's not going to not be hot until October.
Yeah.
But they're good. But they're really, really good.
That's good. And we're all doing what we can. So we weren't here last week, but there's a reason, right, Krystal?
Yeah, so you have to be living under a rock to know what the current climate is. And we had a powwow last week, and we decided that out of respect for current events and everything that is going on with protests, with Black Lives Matter, our voices weren't the voices that needed to be centered last week. It was other voices that needed to be centered. So out of respect for everything going on, we decided to take a pause, take a break, reflect, take the time to really listen and learn, which I know all four of us, even though it's just the two of us today, all four of us have been very actively doing. And so, and we were going to continue to do it. We want to continue to listen. We want to continue to learn. We want to be continually respectful of the movement. And I think we're going to be seeing a lot of changes in not just our country, but in the travel industry as well. So we wanted to take the time and the pause to do that, and then come back today. Any questions that anybody has about any of those things, we're a pretty open book, so drop them in the comments. Let's talk about it. But in the meantime, we did get some questions about travel to Hawaii. Yeah. So we're going to talk about that today.
That's good. That's always a good topic, but change is good. So we're here to talk. We love to talk, and that's why we're here. So Hawaii, because we've talked before on the show that international travel will be on hold for a while.
Yeah.
However, travel to Hawaii is also on hold for a little bit because, you know, as you all know, it's an island away from the mainland, and they've done a pretty good job containing coronavirus. So they're not eager to have people who might have been exposed.
Not even a little bit.
And I just read an article in the Honolulu Times that the 14-day self-quarantine for visitors to Hawaii will be in effect until July 31st.
That's
so
correct.
I think that's going to be hard to police, but you know, if you go, why would you want to spend your money and then have to be stuck in a hotel unless it's like the most beautiful hotel room in the world, which it could be.
Well, and you say hard to police, but I know people who have recently gone because they've moved there. And you're filling out all kinds of forms when you're getting off the plane. Somebody is calling to check in on you daily. And then when you're at resorts, if you're going there as a tourist, hotel staff are watching you. So it's not easy. It's not easy to slide by. So in our professional opinions, wait till August or wait till the end of summer. Let's see what it keeps saying.
Right.
But it's still one of our favorite locations. It's still one of our favorite places to send clients to. So we wanted to give you our tips and tricks, our favorite things, and talk about that. So
yeah. Well, because, you know, every island has a different personality. So I think that that's an important thing to think about when you're planning a trip. So a lot of people, they go to Oahu immediately, and it's a beautiful island. But of course, you have Honolulu, which is a huge city. And, you know, if you want to go to Pearl Harbor, and which is great and an important site to see, but remember, you're going to be on the beach in the middle of a city.
Yeah.
So that's something to keep in mind. And it's busy, you know, unless you go to the North Shore, it's a busy place. And but if you're in the mood for city and you're more cosmopolitan, you're looking, that's always a good option. What do you think?
So I've actually never been to Hawaii personally. So I know it's like
we're going
high on my list of things to go do. I've traveled all over Europe, but domestic, we keep saying, so we actually keep looking at doing a trip to Hawaii next year. But you're right. Each island has its own different personality. If you're like more adventurous, where do you go, Janine?
So if you like to be like outdoorsy, you want to hike and things like that, Kauai for sure. And a lot of, you know, hiking, and it's beautiful. I mean, they call it the Garden Island because it is just really lush, and you feel like Hawaii probably was 40 years ago while you're there. Super beautiful. And then, of course, Maui. I love Maui because there's a lot to do. So I'm not a huge, I love the ocean. I love going to the beach, but I don't love lying in the sun and sitting. It's really not my thing, but there's a lot of golfing, surfing. We went surfing with this great company called Maui Surfer Girls, and it's a woman-owned business, and we had so much fun. And I'll just say, I got up first time.
Well, I mean, I'm a little bit surprised by that, but I also would like to see pictures of that one day. So,
well, you know, the waves are only about like half a foot tall. They weren't even waves; they were like, I don't know.
But it counts. It totally counts.
So then at the Big Island, but I have not been to the Big Island, I have to say. And of course, a lot of people go there because of the volcano, but there's no lava flowing right now.
No.
But it is supposed to still be gorgeous and a really nice place to go if, you know, you want to learn more about Polynesian history and about, you know, about, oh my gosh, about luau's and what's hula dancing?
The hula dancing. We're just talking about how
life of me. With that
before we came on the show, Janine and I were talking about how I feel like we were like this brain fog and everything else. So there you go. No, I agree. When I put together, so, you know, my very first client was a Hawaii client when I started, and I put things together, and we did a really nice trip to Maui for an anniversary trip. And we did, like, you know, so all the research, right? What's the best luau in the area? And, you know, I didn't realize until I did that research that there are different styles of luau's as well. Like, you've got more traditional luau's, you've got a little bit more modern versions, and each luau and each resort or each sponsored luau has a different vibe to it. So knowing that before you book anything is really good. Don't just book the first one that comes to mind. So this is very different. Janine has a good luau.
I went to a terrible luau. I've been to Hawaii 2 times. I went on my honeymoon, and then we brought the kids a few years ago. And on the honeymoon, we were busy planning the wedding and everything, so we didn't do a lot of research to the trip. So you do have to buy tickets in advance to the most popular luau's, the best. So we did it, and we went to one at our hotel. It was so bad. It was in a big ballroom. It couldn't have been less Hawaii than anything. We were laughing so hard. And I know they were trying really hard and they were doing, but it felt like you were at this like really horrible business conference, and they thought they would do like a luau to try to impress everybody. It was just cheesy and horrible. So bottom line is, it's what I say about everything is if there's something you really want to do on a trip, plan ahead. Especially if you're going during a busy time, because there's a really good chance that the one that you'd like to do would be sold out, and you don't want to miss it. I mean, how many times you go to Hawaii in your life, right?
Well, it's true, because it's not going to Hawaii is kind of like going to Europe. Like, you know, long flight, expensive ticket. It's an investment too, because Hawaii is not cheap. So if you're going to do it right.
Yeah,
like really enjoy the time. And plan the activities. It's what I really loved about working with first sets of clients, and then I just had a set that called about Hawaii, which is partly why we're having this whole conversation today. So let me ask you this, Janine. Earmarked budget for Hawaii. What would you say should be an earmarked budget for Hawaii? It's a really good question, right?
Yes, it is. You know what? You're looking at over $10,000 for like a family of 4, like for 7, 10 days easily. Right?
Yeah, because, you know, like I said, I've been looking for my family to go. It was hard to keep under that 10,000 mark. I think it's going to be over. And then when I did, like I said, for that first couple, they had already been to Hawaii. They were actually going back. They used to live there. They were a military couple, and they lived there years ago. They wanted to go back for their wedding anniversary. It was their 26th wedding anniversary. And so they didn't have the rush to go do, but they still had priorities. comfortable air flight. Roberto's like 6'5", like it's just super tall. So needed to have, you know, comfortable air flight, and then great accommodations and great resort in Maui. And there's just a big difference between a resort and great resort. Great resorts cost a little bit more money. But when you put together all their activities, they want to have, you need to have like, my rule of thumb is that you need to have like one planned thing a day and then have the rest of your day be open. So you have the best of both worlds, right? You have the spontaneous and the things. So outside of Luau, and their trip was about 6,500. That's where I was going with that. So I think that started about keeping it between 6 and 7 for a couple is not out of this world to think of to do.
Right. And there, you know, it is possible to rent like a condo and things like that. And some places do have apartments in resorts. So you can still have that resort feeling, but in an apartment and maybe have a couple meals, but the food's expensive. I mean, you know, they do grow a lot on the island, but I imagine a lot has to be shipped in as well. And, you know, just scarcity. Yeah. Plus it's a busy place. The summertime is busy. You know, it falls in line with any other destination where families like to go. And it falls on school vacations. So around December, January holidays, summertime, you know, we went in November and it actually got cold. So you have to look, you think it's going to be like really warm and tropical all the time, and not necessarily. It depending on where you are, and it can be chilly and rainy. So things that you want to keep in mind for sure. Did your clients go to the top of the volcano on Maui and do the bike ride down at dawn?
They did not do that this trip, but it's only because they had experience with that beforehand. So he ended up just doing, because Roberto was an avid cyclist, so he ended up just taking a bike from the resort and going around during the day. So again, they had the best of both worlds. She got to relax that morning on the beach and do her own pace, and he could go out and do all the cycling, but they did not. No.
Yeah. Well, it's popular, but some people love it and some people don't like it at all, because it sounds really cool, but you have to leave at like 4 in the morning. And it's cold, and then of course you're cruising down a volcano on a bike, and you know, so it's not for everybody. Maybe it sounds a little bit better than some people think it is.
Well, it's similar to like Road of Hana, right? Like you have that drive, and it is ridiculously beautiful. It's an all-day, 10-hour drive. Like, you know, by the time it's all said and done, it's not like a quick like hour cruise in the car, and sometimes the roads are closed. You really need to get up early to get up there. If there's any kind of weather, it's completely locked down. There's all these like factors that you have to think about when you plan activities like that. So
well, and the road to Hana, if you get car sick, forget it.
No, out.
Yeah, you have to, really, if you get a car sick at all, you have to take something, or it will be the most unhappy 10 hours of your life. But, so anyway, so there's a whole bunch of things people can do. I mean, it is a tropical paradise. You don't need a passport for it. We are so lucky that it's part of the United States. And it is an investment in time, especially if you're coming from the East Coast. I'm sure people on the West Coast probably go there a lot more often, because even though it's still, I think, 6 hours flight, it's still less than but so there are definitely some things that people go specifically to do, including whale watching. Which I know, but that is a winter activity. It's January to March, and you won't have you might have, the weather can be, maybe. But if you do, I mean, if you're interested in seeing the natural world and experiencing that is a cool thing to do. Have you ever been whale watching?
I have. I lived in California for a long time, so I've gone out that way. And then last year I did a cruise around Iceland, and so we didn't have to go whale watching. We actually could sit out and you could see whales from the deck. I
wish I had done that, but we were there the wrong time of year. So, because they say that you could be on a kayak and they'll come like right next to you. That would be amazing.
I think I could do without that thrill in my life. That seems
So my son has a virtual reality, and there's an Antarctica with National Geographic, and you go in and the whales come up. It's very cool, but I hear what you're saying. If it'd been real, I don't know.
I don't know if I could keep my heart like right down appropriately the way it needs to be.
I know. So something I didn't know is that stand-up paddleboarding was invented in Hawaii. Did you know?
Yeah.
That? I did not know
Yes.
that.
Yep. And it's so it's awesome because when I'm the girlfriend getaway guru too. So I always promote like group stand-up paddleboarding from like groups of girls if they're gonna go do that, because I think that's such a fun activity to go and explore things. But you're right, it started in Hawaii.
Yeah, it is fun. I enjoy it. And my husband and I went, and he had trouble just because he's taller, I think.
Yeah.
And he had
your center of gravity is probably way off.
Yeah, definitely. And I know a lot of people like to go horseback riding too, which I did not do. I went horseback riding in Iceland on the beach, and it's very like, of course, it looks much better in the pictures. We had like helmets on, and we were like trotting, like barely walking.
You looked like those tourists, don't you?
We weren't galloping anywhere, but I imagine it's still super fun. And I do know, coffee tours are popular.
Yeah.
And
on the coffee, baby.
Oh yeah, definitely. Well, we went hiking when we were in Maui, and we found just this little trail, and I didn't know what it was at the time, but I do now. So the kids, they found this. It was like it almost looked like a trampoline. I have to say, that's what it looked like. And they started to jump on it, and it was like a trampoline. I was freaking out a little bit because I'm like, what happens if it collapses? But it was a rubber tree, and it had grown, the roots or something had grown in this flat, and that's what they were jumping on. It was the coolest thing after the fact, after I found out what it was, but not until that point, I did not know.
No, story of being a parent.
Yeah. So I guess in summary, Maui has something to offer. Hawaii has something to offer absolutely everybody. But sometimes it's hard to sift through. So it's either a lot of research on one end, which I recommend. Don't go into it just thinking that you have something in mind, or get some help, right?
Yeah, so both Janine and I have planned Hawaii vacations. We're going to drop sample itineraries in the comments below. Share with you guys, and a fun little destination guide on Hawaii. But if you are wanting to do it, gosh, there's just no limit, like Janine said, of activities. Whale watching, helicopter tours, stand-up paddleboarding, going to visit, doing a volcano visit, the Dole Pineapple Farm, just on and on and on and on. Surfing. So we're going to drop sample itineraries down there, sample guides, any information to share with you. And like I said, this all kind of got born because we've had people starting to ask, because international travel is going to be out for a while, guys. And so for now, we are looking at domestic options. And if I had to choose right now, I'd want to go to Hawaii in a heartbeat too. So that's what a lot of people are starting to look at. So as soon as we know that those quarantines are lifted and you guys are ready to go, I know one thing that they're talking about is possibly doing coronavirus testing. So allowing you to come in, because Alaska just lifted their waiver a couple days ago, or a couple weeks ago, where you could enter in the state if you could show a negative test taken within, I think, 72 hours.
Yeah, that's good. I wonder, this is not for the show, but what if you take a test and then you get on the plane?
It's a really good question. All kinds of these questions are still floating out, and I think that's the weird place that we find ourselves. It's kind of why we started doing this show, right? To like come on here and answer questions about all of this, because it is changing, and it is changing not just daily, but almost hourly. We were getting flooded with all kinds of new information. And that's why, we're travel advisors. So we're always big advocates of call a travel advisor, right? Mm-hmm. But even more so now, because we're here like consuming all the information, and we struggle to keep up with it. I don't know how the average consumer could even possibly begin.
Yeah, maybe they're not. Maybe, maybe they're not. Maybe they're just kind of, they're more concerned with other things. And then eventually when they're thinking about traveling, they'll say, yeah.
But that's why you have us, right? Because that's why we're here. That's why we have services. That's why we have so many great colleagues that we're connected with that do this as well. Because we want to sift through this information with you too. We want to make sure that you need to schedule an appointment with your doctor the day before you fly, so that you can get the test and get your result. And actually, you can't even schedule, because usually it takes 3 to 5 days for your results to come in. So you've got to really time it perfectly, so that the results fall into the right window.
Right.
You can show all that information when you get off the plane. It's been really interesting to see how this evolves by the end of the year.
Yeah, it's been interesting to me too, because we've connected with so many travel advisors that specialize in certain regions of the world. Like, you don't realize how much knowledge they have and how they're able to help, like, just off the top of their heads, without, you know, in not just regions, but like a certain type of traveling or whatever. And really, it's amazing, you know, that the people have been working for years to build up this wealth of knowledge, and it's available to anybody if you want, you know, if you come and look out. So anyway, well, I think that's it. We just wanted to come on and say hello and talk about Hawaii, which is an amazing destination. And we'll be back again next week with Nancy and Emily. And we're always here to answer your questions. So if you have questions about traveling today, tomorrow, next week, next year, whenever, let us know. We're happy to answer them.
Ooh, one more positive good news. Passports are starting to get processed again.
Oh, that's right.
I keep forgetting, and I meant to say we should talk about this, but passports are going to be processed again. The backlog is crazy, though. So if you have a passport that needs to get renewed, I would go look at your expiration date. If it's within the next 6 months, I would start sending that puppy in, because it's going to take a really long time for them to get through everything. But it is really good news, because that means that we're starting to move in the right direction, and that's really comforting for me.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. That is a very good point. And they're only opening a certain number of offices and things like that. So if your passport's expiring in 2021, now's the time to start thinking about it. Definitely. All right. Well, on that note, thanks for stopping by. Total Travel Talk Thursday Live, and we'll see you next week.
All right. Bye, guys.